Hello, watch people. This is Hector from Winding Crowns. Today we're going to take a closer look at the MAS, the Moss, which is Matthew and Son, and the watch is called the JCB. It is a dress watch. It is pretty nice. I appreciate Matthew for sending it out to the channel. I saw it online and I was impressed. I actually saw it on IG, on Instagram, and I was very impressed with the look of the watch. So without further ado, let me go ahead and show you this watch. A quick wristwatch check. I'm wearing Casio G-Shock Square. This is the watch here. You can see what attracted me to it was kind of the vintage aesthetic of it. It did a really good job with it. The reason being, I liked everything that I saw in the pictures. It's actually better in person than what I saw in the pictures. It's got a nice little weight to it. But I like the fact that it was a smaller watch. Now I have a 7.5 inch wrist, so you would think I wouldn't want it to be too small, right? 38 is still a very wearable size for me, so I don't mind a 38 millimeter watch. I wore Hamilton khaki Fields. Automatic is a 38. That wore a little smaller than this, but still it fit me well. But the reason I don't mind the 38 is because this is supposed to be vintage inspired, and it's supposed to remind Matthew of his grandfather, John, and the watch he wore back in the day. And so he tried to mimic that look of his grandfather's watch. By the way, JCB are the initials of his grandfather John, who his family were originally from Scotland, and his grandfather moved the family to Australia. So they live in Australia now, but they were originally from Scotland. This is the type of watch that his grandfather wore. And obviously watches were smaller back then. His grandfather's watch might have even been smaller than this. I like the fact that he kept it 38, so it does have a vintage appeal as far as the size of the case. And also I like the clean dial. It's a nice white dial. Very plain, if you want to say. Uncluttered is a better word. You have the nice polished applied indices. Very no nonsense, just applied to the dial. You do have the little black hash marks going all the way around. No loom. This is a dress watch, so there is no loom on the indices or hands, but it's a dress watch, so no need to complain there. There won't be a loom shot because this is not one of those. It's not a diver. But you have the applied indices, the high polished hands, and then you have your running seconds hand that is black, which contrasts is real good against the white background. Now, I know that if you look at it sometimes, like right there, it looks like those are black indices and black hands. But if you turn it, you see how they're high polished? It's just they're so high polished that they look black. Let me get a closer. I'll zoom in there and see that bevel in the center of the hands. Nice and high polished. Applied indices, high polished. The little black markings around what would be a chapter ring. It's really towards the end of the dial. Very clean. You have the MAS logo, the Moss logo there, Matthew and Son. And then you have there at the bottom, automatic, in a nice kind of like a cursive script. And that's it. It's pretty clean. You do have like a little circle, see that? Right in front of the indices there. I do like that. But overall, it's a very clean dial. You have a very nice high polished bezel. High polished on the side of the bezel. Your high polished sides of the case. It is relatively thin. You do have a beveled edge, but it is high polished as well. You have brushed tops of lugs. You have a nice beads of rice bracelet. Now, the watch originally came in the packaging with this leather strap that is signed with their logo. It is genuine leather. It has one stationary keeper and one floating keeper. Here, you can see. But, of course, it comes with this beads of rice. It's got to go on the beads of rice. Back it up a little bit. It is brushed to the outer, high polish in the middle. This is what I like, guys. They kept it very vintage, and when I say that is, remember these type of clasps, a lot of old Omegas and Constellations on bracelets have this type of clasp. It's just basically your clasp, high polished edges, brushed. It's got their logo, and it's got this place for your nail. Remember those? You see those a lot. But on the vintage ones, you would have a weaker hinge. It would just be a stamped out inner part of the clasp that, you know, can get kind of squirrely on you with time. But this is fully milled. So you get this stamped clasp that looks vintage for when you have it closed, right? It fits the whole look of the watch, as you can see, very nicely. Very vintage from front to back. But you don't get that real squirrely, you know, bendy type of weak hinge. You get a fully milled hinge. You get updated, better specs because this is a new watch. But from that point, it looks like your grandfather's watch, doesn't it? It looks like an older clasp, older bracelet, but it isn't. It's modern. Not only is the clasp modern with the fully milled their hinge, these are solid links. They're not those crappy rolled, bended, you know, links from back in the 50s and 60s that would stretch real bad because they weren't made as well. No, this looks like an old watch, an old style bracelet, but it's fully, see that? Nice milled, solid links. And they are with push pins, so they're easy to change. The end pieces aren't those rolled pieces of tin from back in the 50s and 60s. And even on like Rolex, even in the 80s, in the 90s, they were still doing those folded pieces. Hell, Seiko 5KXs do that still. Even though you would think a vintage watch, which they did have those. Of course, Matthew and Son, they did the fully milled solid end pieces with quick release spring bars that can be removed. Speaking of that, look at that case back. They could have went with a really plain case back because vintage watches were usually pretty plain, but not this one. You get your 50-meter water resist, sapphire crystal, stainless steel, and it's running, yes, you see that correctly, a Miyota 9039. They could have went with an NH35, or, you know, and just had a ghost position or something, but they decided to go with the Miyota 9039. I love the Miyota 9039 way better than I do the NH series of movements. There is no ghost. It is an automatic. Also, guys, you see that really nice tube there? That stem, that crown, screw down, guys. It's a screw down crown. You unscrew it, pops, change your time. There is no date, so it just goes straight from your winding. That's your wind. Pop it. Time change. Pop it. There's your wind. There is no ghost date because the Miyota 9039 is the right movement for this type of setup. So I love that Matthew used the right movement. I love the fact that he didn't use the Seiko movement. He used the Miyota. I like that. And that he used the movement with no ghost. And you just screw it in. Watertight. Look at that. Look at that assembly. Love it. Love that crown and that assembly. It is signed Plenty of nice knurling for your fingers. It's not going to slip. Just altogether a very, very nice look to this watch. Like I said, no lume because it is a dress watch, but look at those polished indices, hands, very clean dial, 38 millimeters. Look at that profile, beautiful. It's a thin watch. It's like 12, I believe, with the double domed sapphire crystal with AR coating. Yes, that is a sapphire crystal. It is double domed. That's why there's no distortion. You see that? And it does have AR on bottom, but it's 12 with this. Without it, it's only like 9, guys. So it's a thin watch, but it's 12 with the dome, but it doesn't feel like 12 at all because all you see is a slim profile of that case. Very nicely done, guys. Very impressed with the watch. I do love everything about it. And if you were wondering what is that in the back, that is I think they call it a thistle, a Scottish thistle, which is a nod to the Scottish heritage of the family. They originally came from Scotland. Very nice. And that's not just a little cheap old etched. You can see that that's nice and deep. Very nice job. More bang for buck, guys. This watch is way worth more than they're asking for. I will put the link to this particular watch in the description, and I'll pin it to the first comment. But I think it's like 330 something Canadian. I think it translates to around 220, 230 US dollars. That's a great price for you getting a Miyota 9039 double dome sapphire crystal, screw down crown with water resistancy for a dress watch. Very nice case back, solid beads of rice, bracelet, solid end links, nice clasp, and you're getting a leather strap. And me and my 7.5 inch wrist, I had to take 2 links out. And even still, guys, you say, oh, I'm not going to get a good fit. You will get a good fit because these links are small. So you'll find your right fit. But if you want to even tweak it even more, look how many micro adjusts you get. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 holes. I put it on the last one, but honestly, it's a little loose. I could go up. You can go down, up. That's a lot of holes, but the clasp is small. Let's go ahead and check out a little something. Look, guys. 20 down to 18. So this bracelet is a 20 between the lugs, so it's a strap monster, and it tapers down to 18, guys. And your clasp doesn't get any bigger. It's fully flush with the bracelet, so you're still looking at about 18 on the clasp. Just altogether a very, very well done watch. I really, really like this watch. Let's look at it on the wrist, guys. What do you say? Let me zoom out a little bit. What do you guys think? See that? Tell me that doesn't look like a vintage Rolex or something. I mean, that is very vintage looking. Look at that. Very nice dress watch, goes right under the cuff, no problems. Very vintage inspired, clean dial, beautiful clean beads of rice. Nice vintage looking clasp, but very solid. Very nice watch, guys. I'm really impressed with this watch. I really like this watch, and I will put the link to the website in the description and pinned to the first comment. But yeah, you'll be impressed, guys. You're interested in the watch, just let them know that you saw it on YouTube on Winding Crowns and Hector sent you, and I would appreciate that. Anyway, guys, there it is. It's a departure for what I usually have on the channel. I have a lot of divers and I was really happy to get this one because I really think it's a really, really well done watch. Anyway, guys, thanks for being with me. More videos to come. If you like this type of content, then please consider subscribing to the channel. Tell your friends about the channel. Hit the bell icon so you're notified of the next video. Hit that like, it really does help. And leave comments down below, guys. What do you think of this Moss, Matthew & Son, JCB dress watch? Very nice and vintage, isn't it? Very nice vintagey watch. Thanks for being with me, and remember, never stop winding crowns.